You gave us a choice, but dressed it in the language of surrender. You didn't come to parley. You came to deliver an ultimatum: disarm, kneel, and submit, or be extinguished. For hours, we listened to the Zaraxi envoy drone through calculated threats, flanked by diplomats who believed their empire's size meant inevitability. You thought us fragile because our voices trembled. You mistook our silence for hesitation. That was your first mistake. Humanity has never been a peaceful species by default. We learned peace through effort, through generations clawing their way from brutality into civility. Every step of our ascent was painted with struggle. Not because we enjoy conflict, but because we survived it. That's what you didn't understand. Peace, for us, is not weakness. It's the restraint of something far older, far deeper. Something waiting beneath the surface. We came to that table wanting peace. We offered compromise, time, shared ground. You returned only arrogance. You thought that because your fleets outnumber ours, because your empire spans more systems, that the outcome was assured. You thought war would be simple. You believed we would fold. You believed wrong. When the envoy concluded with his declaration of unilateral integration, you expected us to panic, to beg for terms. Instead, we asked to transmit one final message across all known channels. You didn't understand then, and you don't understand now. So listen closely, because this message isn't a cry for help. It's not a plea for mercy. It's a record. This is the last official transmission of the Human Defense Command. What follows isn't a threat. It's a response. You wanted war. Now you will understand how we wage it. Our history is etched in defiance. From the first time we bled under another's boot, we learned one lesson: never again. The flames you've kindled have been lit before, on our own soil, by our own hands. Every era of our past is a warning you didn't study. You see weapons, we see the reasons we forged them. You see scars, we remember what caused them. You see division, we remember the times we unified because we had no choice. This moment is one of those times. We are not naive. We know the odds. Your numbers are superior. Your technology is older, more tested. Your species is bred for coordination, for unquestioning obedience. But you lack something we possess in abundance: desperation guided by reason, rage tempered by purpose, imagination sharpened by necessity. You won't understand the shape of this war until it's already around you. You won't see our fleets in time to stop them. You won't hear our operatives until your command centers go silent. You won't recognize the virus until your archives collapse and your navigational charts lead you into dead systems. We won't fight this war as you expect. Not with grandstanding or open-field confrontations. We've read that playbook. We tore out the pages that didn't work, rewrote the rest in fire, and translated it into a language only humans speak fluently, the dialect of desperation. You pushed us to the brink. And when humans are pushed that far, something ancient rises. It's not glorious. It's not noble. But it is relentless. You have mistaken our restraint for inability. Now you will see that it was mercy. You believe war is domination. For us, it is necessity. You came here seeking to conquer. We came here hoping to avoid what we were capable of. But now you've forced our hand. When you study this broadcast, and you will, pay close attention to the calm in my voice. It is not apathy. It is resolve. Because we know what comes next. And we've accepted it. We will lose people. We always do. But we learn. We adapt. And when we rise from the ashes, we are never the same. Stronger. Smarter. More precise. That's what you've started. This is your doing. Your choice. We were ready to share knowledge, to build a future in balance. You saw that as an opening to strike. Now you'll understand that humanity never forgets betrayal. And we never accept chains. Not from within. Not from beyond the stars. So, to the Dominion and to the species aligned with it, remember this moment. Mark it in your histories. You'll come to fear the silence that follows. Because the next sound you hear will not be words. It will be war. You saw the surface, steel ships, fractured alliances, emotional leaders, and thought you understood us. What you failed to grasp is what built us. You didn't study our past. You skimmed our wars, saw chaos, and dismissed it as a sign of a species tearing itself apart. You mistook the blood in our history for senseless brutality, not realizing it was the price of evolution. Humanity didn't emerge in peace. We clawed our way out of extinction events. We endured volcanic winters, hunted beasts that could shatter bones with a glance, crossed oceans on broken wood without knowing if land existed on the other side. We survived not because we were the strongest, but because we refused to die. You see our aggression, but not its origin. You see our conflicts, but not the lessons carved from them. Every war we fought has reshaped us. Not always for the better, but always with purpose. We remember the mistakes. We etch them in stone and textbooks, not to glorify them, but to warn ourselves what happens when we forget. We were never given the luxury of comfort. Peace had to be invented, then defended, often violently. That contradiction is what makes us dangerous. We know peace is precious, because we built it in the ruins of what we once were. You didn't read the accounts of trench warfare, of soldiers knee-deep in mud and blood for inches of ground. You never looked into the eyes of those who firebombed cities knowing what they left behind. You never studied the moment we split the atom, not to dominate, but because we were afraid someone else would do it first. We are a species forged in tension. Compassion and cruelty coexist in us not as flaws, but as design. We love fiercely and retaliate without hesitation. When we grieve, we do so with rituals older than our nations. And when we fight, we remember everything, every slight, every sacrifice, every betrayal. You misjudged our resilience. We've lost continents to plague, watched empires fall, seen the sky turn black from ash. But every time we rebuilt. Smarter. Meaner perhaps. But always stronger. You think in timelines of dynasties. We think in millennia of survival. You calculate advantage. We calculate consequence. Our species doesn't run from adversity. We study it. Repurpose it. Turn it into momentum. You block a road, we build a tunnel. You destroy a city, we construct 10 more underground. You silence one voice, we create networks where 1,000 rise in its place. Resistance is not an act for us, it's instinct. Your species values order. Ours values adaptability. You rely on tradition. We thrive in reinvention. When cornered, you dig in. When cornered, we evolve. Every time we faced extinction, we changed. We adapted fire, stone, metal, code, silicon. We learned to terraform, to rewrite genes, to integrate mind with machine. Not to dominate nature, but to survive it. This war you've started will force us to change again. And you won't recognize what we become next. Your analysts saw disunity in our nations. They mistook cultural diversity for fracture. They saw disagreements and thought we were divided. They couldn't comprehend that we are built from conflict, and that when true danger comes, we don't dissolve. We converge. When humans unite under threat, we become something else. Our innovations spike. Our resourcefulness ignites. We don't follow doctrine, we create doctrine. You'll see tactics without precedent. Responses without logic. Weapons without names. Because for us, war is not bound by honor. It's shaped by outcome. We have used rocks, bows, chemical clouds, orbital rods, invisible code, artificial minds, all to secure one thing, the continuation of our kind. Every step forward in our history has come with blood. But the direction has always been the same, forward. And that is what you missed. You thought we could be studied, charted, predicted. But we are not a species of patterns. We are a species of exceptions. You judged us by our worst moments, assuming they were our norm. But even our darkest chapters, genocides, civil wars, global collapse, were followed by resurrection. Not because we forget, but because we refuse to be defined by the fall. You can destroy our ships, our cities, our symbols, but not our capacity to rise again. This war you began will be etched into our memory, but not as tragedy. As transformation. You failed to study the species that buried its dead with flowers, but also built weapons that could shatter moons. You didn't read the stories of those who leapt into fire for strangers, or those who dismantled empires with nothing but will. You didn't study humanity. You observed it, poorly. Now you will learn. You thought warfare was measured in fleet size, firepower, and formation discipline. You assumed that control of the battlefield would determine victory. That's because you built your doctrine around conquest. We built ours around survival. You have rules. We have outcomes. Your generals expect symmetrical war. Line against line, command versus command. But humans don't fight that way. We never did. Our most effective wars weren't won by brute force. They were won by misdirection, sabotage, attrition, and subversion. Where you seek dominance, we seek collapse, from within. You will not see the full shape of this war until it's too late. The first wave isn't ships. It's data, lines of code written by minds that understand your systems better than your own architects. While you posture with battlecruisers, our algorithms are already rewriting your logistics. Our AI doesn't just infiltrate. It learns. It adapts. It waits until you rely on it, then turns everything off. Your species engineered systems to minimize thought. We engineered systems to amplify it. While you automate war, we empower improvisation. No plan survives contact with humanity, because we don't follow plans. We rewrite them in real time, with information you don't even know we've stolen. We've never had the advantage of strength. So we perfected creativity. We don't throw soldiers at problems. We send 5 operatives with a week of prep and a suicide switch. We don't need to outnumber you. We just need to cut one artery. One reactor. One command line. You'll encounter units you won't find on our rosters. Civilians trained in irregular warfare. Miners who can disable a fusion core with improvised tools. Biologists who weaponize ecosystems. We don't limit war to soldiers. When humanity fights, everyone becomes a weapon. We've already infiltrated your colonies. Not with troops, but with linguists, cultural analysts, signal interpreters. While you celebrated your victories, we studied your funerals, mapped your social hierarchies, traced your communication patterns. We don't need to beat your fleets. We only need to fracture your coherence. Your military will begin to falter before a single decisive engagement. Not because you were outgunned, but because your orders will arrive hours too late. Because your officers will hesitate at key moments, unsure if the signals they receive are authentic. Because your morale will crack when your soldiers see human weapons that shouldn't exist, tactics that shouldn't work. But do. We won't match your numbers. We'll force you to question your own. Imagine units vanishing without a trace. Supply convoys evaporating mid-transit. Planetary sensors detecting nothing until the ground erupts beneath them. That's how we fight, not with spectacle, but with silence that breaks all at once. We learned early in our history that perception is as powerful as firepower. While your commanders evaluate strategic positions, our psychological operations are already targeting your chain of command. Expect defections. Panic broadcasts. Conflicting orders. You've given us access to your minds without realizing it, your languages, your symbols, your stories. We'll use them against you until you question your own loyalty. You'll wonder how we knew where to strike. The answer is simple: we listened. You speak too often. You document everything. You left a trail from your recruitment stations to your war councils. You didn't think we'd study your cultural rituals, your mating cycles, your mourning customs. But we did. And we weaponized what you thought had no tactical value. You trained for visible war. You built your doctrine on predictable variables. Our war ignores your variables. We embed viruses in your entertainment systems. We plant doubts in your diplomatic core. We don't just attack structures, we undermine belief. And when your resistance hardens, when you finally adapt, you'll find we've already shifted again. Our soldiers are trained to abandon doctrine at the first sign of failure. They don't await permission, they create their own missions. Every engagement recalibrates our approach. Our learning curve isn't linear, it's exponential. You expect humans to break under pressure. What happens instead is fusion. When our backs hit the wall, we unify across lines you never imagined. Species, ideology, origin, all irrelevant. When survival is at stake, we become a single organism with one focus: victory, at any cost. So don't look for our battle plan. There isn't one. There are thousands, running in parallel, written by minds human and synthetic, physical and digital, coordinated only by necessity. That's what makes us lethal. Not strength. Not speed. But unpredictability, refined into strategy. You brought force. We'll answer with chaos. But not wild, disorganized chaos, crafted, deliberate entropy, designed to break systems, not just bodies. That's how we fight. And that's why we win. You expected resistance. What you didn't expect was transformation. You thought you were facing a species defending its borders. What you're facing is a species reinventing itself for the sole purpose of ending you. We are not the same civilization you declared war on. That version of humanity died the day your ultimatum was delivered. What rose from its ashes is colder, sharper, focused to a point. You believed our compassion would make us hesitate. You assumed our moral codes were limits. What you never realized is that we choose restraint. It is not imposed on us. And once abandoned, we do not flinch. Once war becomes survival, humanity stops asking whether something should be done, and begins calculating whether it will work. We've discarded conventions like old skin. The organizations you studied, governments, coalitions, treaties, they've been rewritten. Our command structures now operate through decentralized, adaptive nodes. One destroyed? 3 more replace it. You can't paralyze something that has no center. We've elevated leaders not by rank, but by results. Our best tacticians aren't career officers, they're analysts, hackers, inventors, and former criminals. People who think in ways your empire would deem unacceptable. That's the difference. You fight with structure. We fight with intention. Every setback has been integrated, analyzed, and repurposed. A failed assault becomes training data. A captured outpost becomes bait. Casualties are grieved, but also studied. Each life lost is a signal. A lesson. A variable feeding into a larger equation. Grief has become weaponized, not by turning to rage, but by becoming impossibly efficient. We are no longer afraid of losses. We've stopped counting in bodies and started counting in momentum. What we lost in numbers, we've gained in precision. One operative now does the work of a battalion. One strike shifts entire sectors. We don't measure progress by territory taken. We measure it by systems broken, morale disrupted, alliances fractured. Your forces rely on hierarchy and stability. Ours thrive in chaos. Our people have become the war. Every citizen trained, every industry repurposed, every resource converted into acceleration. We've turned entire moons into forges, hollowed asteroids into mobile arsenals, flooded deep space with probes you can't detect. And beneath it all runs a current you will never understand: resolve. This isn't about pride or revenge. It's not even about defense anymore. It's become something else. A commitment to reshape the outcome of history. You spark something you can't extinguish. An understanding among every human that our future only exists if we earn it through total, unrelenting resistance. We've accepted the price. Comfort is gone. Sleep is rare. Families have become units. Children are raised not in fear but in preparation. They are taught that their world was set on fire, and that they were born to carry the ashes forward. You don't understand what that does to a people. What happens when survival isn't an instinct but a discipline? When even our artists create propaganda that breaks enemy morale. When our engineers work without rest, feeding AI prototypes that write code we no longer understand but still deploy, because every edge matters. Even our dead are being put to work. Memory transfer protocols, neural mapping, rapid clone command instincts, we've blurred the lines between sacrifice and service. If a soldier falls with critical knowledge, we ensure it lives on. We do not bury potential. We preserve it. Repurpose it. Multiply it. You've begun to notice the change. Your agents report irregular behavior in human territories. Civilians coordinating like tacticians. Resistance groups operating with alarming cohesion. No central broadcast. No guiding signal. Just pure, evolved instinct. That's what happens when you force evolution in real time. You thought we would fracture under pressure. Instead, we crystallized. Sharper. Harder. Transparent in motive but impossible to shatter. You've already lost control of your narrative. Your populations have seen our defiance. Some admire it. Others question your version of events. Dissent spreads like fire. And every time you try to suppress it, we fan the flames. This isn't escalation. It's culmination. You handed us the catalyst. We became something else in response. Not better. Not worse. Just necessary. You gave us a reason to abandon what held us back. The war isn't over. Not yet. But the shape of its end is forming. And it doesn't look like your victory. It looks like reckoning. You wanted a war. What you got was a demonstration. Not of brutality, but of inevitability. You believed humanity would break under pressure, fragment under fear, collapse under loss. But it's not pressure that crushes us, it's what forges us. We didn't outmatch you. We outlasted you. While you measured the war in battles, we measured it in consequences. While you counted ships, we counted shifts. In behavior. In morale. In outcome. And now you understand what we meant when we said, you chose war, now watch how we wage it. You can still deny the scale of your collapse, but the evidence is everywhere. Systems you once ruled now ignore your calls. Allies you once trusted sit in silence, afraid to be next. You didn't lose control in a single moment. You lost it in pieces. You just didn't recognize the erosion until it was irreversible. We didn't need to win every battle. We only needed you to question every victory. To doubt your own strategies. To hesitate before every engagement. And that hesitation was all we needed to insert failure. We didn't destroy your fleets. We made them irrelevant. You built for domination. We moved beneath your calculations. Our war wasn't visible. It was viral. Strategic. Designed to bleed you without you even realizing where the wound was. And now your command structure has buckled. Your fleet has scattered. Your territories are rebelling not because we ordered them to, but because they saw an alternative. An enemy that refused to die. And a leadership that no longer inspires fear. We gave no mercy because you offered none. We didn't escalate. We adapted. Each move you made revealed another layer of your doctrine, and we unraveled it one assumption at a time. You assumed humanity needed unity to respond. We didn't. We needed purpose. And once found, every fragment of our civilization became a vector of resistance. What remains of your war effort is crumbling. Not because of overwhelming force, but because we reached the places force can't touch, your data, your belief systems, your social cohesion. While your soldiers fired at shadows, we dismantled the foundations of your empire. Quietly. Precisely. Permanently. And now, here we are. Not at peace. Not yet. But at the edge of conclusion. Your outposts abandoned. Your networks compromised. Your leaders isolated. The infrastructure you relied on now functions only where we allow it. This was never about retribution. It was correction. You triggered this war because you believed yourself superior. You called us volatile, dangerous, primitive. You thought our flaws would be our downfall. You didn't realize they were part of our adaptability. Our rage is not weakness, it's fuel. Our fear is not paralysis, it's catalyst. We did not want this war. But we ended it. Now we offer you the same thing you denied us, a choice. Surrender isn't a word we use lightly. In our history, it meant extinction. It meant silence. But this is not your history. This is ours. And we decide what surrender looks like. You will lay down your weapons. Not because we demand submission, but because you have no viable future if you don't. The galaxy has watched. And it has chosen. Not sides. But lessons. Humanity will not rule. We have no interest in becoming the monster we defeated. But we will reshape the order that allowed you to believe this war was justified. Every policy. Every protocol. Every unchecked arrogance that birthed this conflict, burned down, rebuilt, and remembered. We won't erase what happened. We'll carve it into the walls of our new age. Not as a warning to others, but as a promise to ourselves. Never again silent. Never again unprepared. Never again underestimated. You'll survive. Not because we failed to finish you, but because we've seen what happens when power goes too far. Because we understand that justice without restraint becomes vengeance. And because we want those who remain to carry the memory forward of what we became when pushed too far. This message is our final transmission. Not a threat. Not a boast. A record. For anyone who finds it. For any species who watches, who listens, who wonders what happened here. Let them hear it clearly. Humanity was tested. And we did not break. We endured. We adapted. We overcame. You asked for war. We answered. And now we are done.